Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com. Today we have another hand from $5, $10, no limit. We pick up the Ace-10 offsuit on the button with a 200 big blind effective stack. I'm definitely going to be raising this. Seems pretty clear. I make it 3 big blinds. You'll see some players at 5 to no limit making it 40 or 50 or 70 preflop as their standard preflop raise. And I'm not going to go too deep into this. We actually go into it in my newest book, Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em, but you typically want to just be using roughly a 2.5 to 3 big blind raise size if you plan on raising more than only the absolute best hands. If you're going to be really tight, then sure, just put a lot of money in when you have your best hands. But in general, you're going to want to use a bet size that is reasonable, because when you start making it big, it takes away a lot of your post-flop advantage because you made the pot big pre-flop, so there's less money to go in after the flop. So anyway, 3 big blinds is a pretty nice size with the stack sizes. Maybe you can go 3.5 big blinds. Obviously, there is some value in getting called by a very splashy player in the big blind. Like if this guy will call a $100 bet with 9-7 offsuit, then sure, make it 100 and get called. But you're going to find that most people aren't calling $100 bets pre-flop with 9-7 offsuit. All right, so we basically get the nuts on the flop. We have top pair. We're clearly going to bet for value. And I think in cash games, you can go a little bit bigger than you'll often see players betting in tournaments, just because people tend to be a little bit more call-y. But also, so given we are deeper stacked, I think a bet of 50 here would probably be a little bit better than 40. If our opponent's not going to read into that bet sizing. Some people will think 50 is obviously stronger than 40 or something like that, but that's tough to know, especially whenever I'm reviewing a hand that I played a while back. So I bet 40, and very splashy player calls, which is perfect. I'm going to be betting again on almost all turns. Even if the turn's a king, queen, or jack, I'm going to bet again. So turns a 6, and I go for 60. I would prefer to go bigger today. I mean, at this point, I'm just viewing this as a 3 streets of value hand, unless the board runs off with like a, I don't even know what could possibly come on the river to make me not want to bet. I mean, I guess a 5 or a 3 would be not so great. Every other card is acceptable, because here, what is our opponent's flop check calling range and turn check calling range, given he's a very splashy player, right? It's going to be almost entirely worse 10s, and then hands like 8s, 9s, 7s, maybe stuff like 6, 7, 6, maybe stuff like 6, 4, maybe stuff like 5-4, and notice clearly we beat almost all these. We lose to 6-5, but we're going to have the best hand here almost every time. So we want to bet and we want to get called. And here, I do think splashy players are going to stick around for larger bet sizes more than the generic opponents. We get one of the worst rivers. River is a 4, but clearly I don't care. I go for 170. There are some players who will virtually always lead on the river when they make a hand they think is the best. And I'm not going to say that's what my opponent is doing here, but it very often, or very easily could be. And if I have the read that this player is the type of player who's going to be leading when he makes a straight and with some bluffs, well then when he checks, it means he has some sort of medium strength hand, or maybe 2 pair at best. So if he has 2 pair at best, I'm going to make a value bet, assuming I think he can call me with stuff like king 10, queen 10, jack 10, 10 9, 10 8, and then pocket 9s and 10s, or 9s and 8s. Clearly, we do lose to the 7s. We lose to 7-6. We lose to 7-5. There are hands we lose to. But this is an example of a thin value bet that you can make with the intention of folding if you get check raised, especially if you don't think your opponent's going to be check raising you too often. Also, this is a spot where I easily could have a 7. I mean, clearly my opponent should have more 7s than me, given he's very splashy. But we did raise the button, and as you've seen from the previous hand here on PokerNews.com, if you have not watched that, by the way, go back and watch it. We're getting after it a bit, right? So we have some 7s in our range. There's no reason to think that we just could not have a 7 ever. So I like this bet. It seems pretty nice. And this is a value bet. We're not bluffing here. And we get called. And we have the best hand. That's perfect. So that's going to be it for this hand here on Poker News. I want to thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, definitely let me know on Twitter. Also, follow Poker News on Twitter. They post lots of great educational poker content and also lots of poker news. That's what Poker News does. So check it out. Give them a follow. And I'll talk to you again next week. Good luck in your games, and I hope you run incredibly hot.